Welcome to our weekly All Hands for July 3rd, 2024. And this is our weekly All Team Tactical, where we sync up on work that everyone is doing around our organization, eliminate blockers, and prioritize our work for the next week. First, our lag metrics. This is actually what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to get to at least 250,000 weekly transaction volume. We are at 250. So we want to multiply that by 1,000. And that's what we're going to aim while we're at 208, actually. That's down 22 from last week. Something for us to note as we go forward. On the lead metric side, we have one new user. We have 3 communities deployed. We have 11 weekly transacting users, and 0 new money in the multi-sig. So I did start the new playbook, and we can kind of go, well, we don't need to really go over it yet because it's honestly really early, just looking at the new format. The format's going to change. Before, it was more of like a business plan. Now the format's going to be more based upon a product, which is in that kind of build for fit stage. And I kind of went over this a bunch yesterday. I was hoping to finish it yesterday, but that didn't quite happen. But at least I think I have a good format going forward, and I'm gonna iterate on that this week. In terms of new members, I do not see any weeks, so we're gonna go straight into our milestones. I wonder if Rainus and Co. are in the amphitheater. No, they are not. Okay, so I will just send Rainus a little poke, see if he can make it here at Rainus. Okay. And on the milestone perspective, again, our goal is to create revenue, and we do that by creating more transaction volume. So our goal is to have 1,000 weekly transacting users. On the rewards flow side, we want to do June's reward flow. So basically, June is done, and so we need to disperse those rewards into the contracts. We now have the OETH contract deployed on prod for Origin Protocol. It was tested on staging, so basically this means that we can now distribute OETH rewards to everyone. What we need to do that is to fund those contracts, both or all 3 of the OETH contract, the bank contract, and the NOGS contract. So we're going to try to do that this week. That's part of the monthly rewards reconciliation, and to make that easier, we actually one of the things that we did was we moved some tokens from the root multisig to our rewards multisig. So last week we got the root multisig together. We ran some transactions, and we moved some, small pieces of funds to the rewards multisig, and that is something that me, Tom, and NF Thinker are on, and that's a 2 of 3 multisig. And what that means is that from a product perspective, we can ship those rewards on a monthly basis without having to get the whole multi-sig together, which I think is a good situation for us to be in, and we'll see how it goes. There should be enough for a couple months worth of rewards in the rewards multi-sigs now. Next steps for the rewards flow, we want to do some one-on-one user tests. We did this for our ACH flow, we did this for our onboarding flow, and they became a lot better as a result. So we want to do this again for our rewards flow. We also want to personalize some automatic emails when they come out. I think this month we could just send every user an email that says, hey, there should be rewards available for you, go check them out, with a link to the app. But in the future, what we would like is for that to be automated. And the idea is that we can continue to re-engage users as we go forward by having a personalized email every month that gets sent to them. On the SUS side, I took a look this morning at the dashboard. We had 3 users in the 30-day lagging score, and so we had a 70.8, still pretty good. It's a little bit lower than what we had for May, which is down 5. We do need to extract some of the responses to see why they're giving us that score. So that's something that we can look at to understand how we can improve. As well, we do know that there is a gap in the user flow. Users are waiting for the physical card before they actually load it, but actually we want them to load ASAP and add to Apple Pay and Google Wallet. And so the thing that we need to do, while we have a couple of ideas on this, we can email to users and add ACH flow to the email and onboarding. We haven't done this yet. Probably not going to get done this week, but that's something. That's the kind of main hypothesis for that. And then finally, on the next gaps and drivers, we need to improve our visibility into the app itself and what our users are doing to be able to kind of understand those next gaps. So that's, I mean, Tom, did you have anything else you wanted to report from a product perspective?
No, that sounds like just about all of it.
All right, awesome. Thanks a lot. On the content funnel side, hey, Rainus, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, everybody? New channel, a new server. Got a bit confused at the start. But nonetheless, content funnel updates. This week, not much updates from me, Andy, and Ofsky, because we are off on a summer camp and we're filming the whole camp, and we have to make a new video every single day. So we haven't been able to dive into content production very much, but we will be back next week full force, and we will be skilled up in our talking, filming, editing, and everything else. That's why we're here. We're practicing. Yeah. Maybe Coffee, you have some updates this week because I'm in a different mind space right now. I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries. We got it covered. Still working on the nouns launch in terms of, getting that the Noggles filter. I've got to finish that up. So I'll get that finished up by tomorrow. And I want to send it out to the team just to have everybody look at it. This is the step-by-step of how to add to make sure it's really easy to participate in this little contest. If everybody's good with sort of the instructions and how it works, I think we launch, we sort of kick that off early next week. And if that's okay with you, NF, and then just, we can start getting excitement about, they can collect some degen or some nogs for their pits.
Do you have the content written that you're like ready to post on Twitter and Warpcast as well?
I don't know. I know NF had started something. So he'd written up something of like kind of the promotion. What I'm writing down is sort of like to make sure it actually works and that it's easy, because it's kind of like you have to post on one and they go back to the other, and
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of, I'm just looking at who's attached to this campaign. Okay. All right. So, Coffee Crusher, I see that like you're attached to the campaign. So, I mean, I guess like I'm really looking to you. If you need NF's help, certainly enlist him. But I'm really looking to you to push it forward as best you can. And if you're blocked on content or anything, you can reach out to me or anyone else on the team to help you out with that. But I really want you kind of driving it forward, pushing it forward if you can.
Yep, no problem.
All right, thanks a lot. Cool. And in terms of our community funnel, how's this going, NF Thinker?
Oh, I have also had a very slow week and have not had a lot of time to dedicate to this currently. Summertime equals a ton of photography work for me. I have, however, heard back from Jimmy from Tree Gens, also Let's Grow. We have been talking about it. He's filled in the funnel. I'm actually going to fill in his answers today. I've got that open right now, so I can add that in from the funnel. And by going in there, I've also seen that 6 from Hire has filled it out too. So those are both 2 good leads for us in terms of partnerships. Either of those, I think, would be a great lead in terms of moving forward and getting something activated. Jimmy is more of the regen side, and I think that's going to be people will want to have that impact of donating to plant a tree. The main idea there, they don't actually have a token. The idea there would be to fund a treasury and then donate that money towards planting trees. So people would have a real world impact on making everyday purchases. For hire, I don't know exactly what they would be looking to do with their funds, but they have put down also fund a community treasury. So whether that goes towards their brand proliferation or what they do decide to do with that, that's what they've chosen. So I think we need to follow up with 6 in terms of how they'd want to move forward with that. Rocket Man was our contact from VRBS Verbs, which is like the yin to nouns yang, and they are a similar thing. They're a grants DAO, and we got to a certain point with them, but haven't really moved forward. I just need to go back and double check where we were at with that conversation. But I think any of those 3 verbs, hire or tree gens, would be good to move forward. Tree planting is probably not as stable as the rest. Again, this comes down to a tokenomics issue similar to Blue, where they just don't have a lot of distribution with their token, and it's very volatile, and there is not a direct connection between the token and actually planting trees. The contact S, he's very he has a lot of great ideas, but they don't necessarily all fit with what our model is. Like some of the things he wanted to do was collaborate with other projects on Farcaster and Warpcast to boost visibility around BCard by activating purchases of tickets, basically purchasing NFTs with your BCard through a sort of MasterCard plugin. And I was saying to him, I don't think that's a good idea, to be honest, because we're not actually then getting the interchange revenue through that. There's going to be minimal interchange revenue. So there's not going to be much benefit to anybody besides actually people signing up to use a BCard, but I don't know what their incentive will be. So in that case, we've got 3 that I'm looking at as strong potentials, as well as Pool Together, who I think Lynx, you had mentioned that you might be able to go to their community call this week. What time is that? It's a Thursday evening thing.
Yeah, so
right?
it's 2:45, I believe, Eastern.
Uh-huh.
So let me just double check here. 6 days ago. Anyways, it's usually at I believe 2:45. So I guess at your time it would be 5:45, 7:45. Yeah,
Mhm.
makes sense. Yeah, 2:45 is when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will. I'm supposed to remind him today, actually. So it's good that you reminded me. I just put it on my list. Pool Together. We get on community call. But basically, it's not. I would not say Pool Together is a massive community right now, but they do have a lot of reach. So I don't know how I don't think we'll get like a shit ton of users from Pool Together, but I do think that it is a good brand for us to be associated with. I do think that they have a strong brand, and I do think that their product is very interesting. So we do want to. I do think that it's a good partner for us, and I will float it to the community, and hopefully people are interested. We shall see. And one of the things that their community manager said was, "Lynx, we always have room on our stage for you. There's always a place on our stage for you. So feel free to come in whenever." So I thought that was pretty nice as well.
On our stage and in our hearts.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, those are some potentials right there. Essentially, that's 4 potentials that we could hopefully activate soon. I know we need to be accelerating this and pushing this forward as soon as possible. So of the 4, pull together, hire, verbs, and tree gens. I don't know who's going to give us the most activations, but they are all values aligned, I feel. And so any one of those 4 would be good to pursue as soon as possible.
Cool. Sounds great. All right. Thanks for that update. On the grant side, the base on-chain summer was submitted by me last week. Thanks to NF Thinker and Crypto Dad for helping me with that. We also threw up a new video on YouTube. It's an unlisted video, but I can put it. I mean, if you go onto our Notion, you can find it in our previous submitted grants if you need it. But it just really goes through. It's really from a tilt of why we should be winning this thing from a Farcaster social perspective, and the ideas that we're empowering communities. So that is up there. We could still potentially get tickets to EdCon via sharing this link. I don't know, Coffee Crusher, are there plans to send out a user email anytime soon?
I was thinking about we need to. Are we? I mean, the only other announcement normally. I mean, we should probably talk about. Like, what are you thinking of doing at EdCon? Because I thought we weren't.
Yeah, so I'm not really going, but there's a potential speaking, like I potentially could speak there. And if we share this link, we could potentially get like a VIP ticket, which means that like hopefully the flight and stuff would be paid for. I'm not quite sure. I haven't looked into it too deeply. And Thinker, have you taken a look?
I don't know that the flight would be paid for.
Okay, well then I don't even know.
We already missed it. Yeah, we already. No, I think what Rachel was alluding to. Let me just pop open that. So she said, one way we can participate is retweeting our VIP ticket raffle happening, so your community has a chance to win VIP tickets, and people will get instant approval. So I don't think there's any way that we're actually really getting out there. But I don't think there's any problem with us actually retweeting this and sharing it. At the end of the day, EdCon is put on by the ETH Foundation, and the closer we get to ETH Foundation, obviously the better off we are in the long run. So I don't see why there's an issue with sharing this at all. I actually reposted it from our Twitter account this morning, included our promo link, and so we'll see if anybody signs up from there.
Cool. Sounds good.
It's just a visibility thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. But we don't need to worry about sharing this in a user email, though.
But I do have a question.
Yeah.
You remember this video that you were talking about, this base video? Is that something that I can share to the subscribers, to our email list?
You could. You could. I don't know if it's going to be super interesting to them. I mean, I'll send you the link, and you can check it out and make that decision for yourself.
Because I mean, basically, with that, it's going to be voted on. How is it they're going to choose, right? Like, is it like like when we
it's not an open vote. There's a certain list of judges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So here is the here's the link. I'm going to post it in the chat there.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll have a look, see if it's something of, I just figured it might be something interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, if the
I think you probably want
EdCon
to share this link. It does have the video on the link.
Mhm.
And you can see like you can like add cheers and stuff.
Oh, that would be perfect because it talks about. Oh yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly, yes, because it just shows we're doing some cool stuff and yes, okay, so I'll use that. Rainus, I will take a look at this. I'll write up some copy if you can get March's help to help me write up.
March isn't on the camp with us, so he's available.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. All right. Moving down, we've deployed our new brand. Andy, I sat with Andy and gave him some feedback. last week on the website. So he is pushing it further now. There was a couple things missing, and the idea is that through the strategy documents that I'm working on right now, I will create some content for him to put on the front page. So I was hoping to finish it this week. We shall see. Knock on wood. That is back and available for feedback as well. So we should also book a meeting with him for like just the DeFi brand in general. So that's something that's on my list to do, and then we can get into the task perspective. All right, I will duplicate this. Duplicate, and ISO week number is probably 27. Yeah, 27. Wow, so halfway through the year now. All right. Okay, so we just went through our milestones and goals. And then for this, just still waiting on that to populate. Okay. And so, Rainus, did you spend 5 hours on BCard in the last week?
5 no, because I have the summer camp from Sunday, but I did some, I would say 2 hours on Friday and Saturday, so
Cool.
if that counts.
Yep.
I'm sorry, this week I'm offline.
No, that happens. That's the way it works. We can jump in and out as we like. That's the goal. And what about you, NF Thinker?
Yeah, I would say I spent 5 hours. I didn't quite have the impact that I wanted to, but it has been constantly on my mind.
We'll get there. And Tom, how about you?
Yes, indeed.
Awesome. And Coffee Carter?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, so I'll move this away from our all team projects and get into our actual tactical stuff. So on the waiting needs feedback, basically by July 15th, we should know whether or not we got this. We also have our Dow Spring grants, which I haven't applied to yet, but I will. EdCon, I'm going to mark this as complete because we're not going to be worrying about this anymore. The nouns community actually would say that the campaign is the most important thing on here. So I guess like I am tempted actually, NF Thinker, to move this directly onto Coffee Crusher for all the kind of campaigns that we're going to be working on for this. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense to you, NF?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And I have reached out to Dom recently, and I still don't have an answer. So I don't know what he's up to. He seems very preoccupied with other stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. I think like if we can get him to retweet that, like if we can get people to kind of retweet the video that we have out there with the BCard bunny, that's something that we can potentially do immediately. But in terms of the next campaign, the Noggles one, we can that's I would say the highest priority on the kind of nouns co-branding side.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so we already talked about that. Update cash flow for the POC. How's this going, Archisti?
So I had an idea, but I didn't execute on it. Specifically related to cutting or carving out the Mercury account, since we don't really have the best way of moving funds between the multi-sigs and the Mercury account. So to do a breakout of that, but I haven't done any yet.
Yeah, I almost wonder if we should. Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. We should talk about it. I'm going to be getting into it a little bit deeper now that I'm working on the strategic document, and I want to make sure that we have the kind of high level numbers in that playbook. Just things like our unit economics and our path to sustainability. So I will probably be looking at that document this week, and we can talk about it as well tomorrow.
Okay.
Cool. On the website side, Andy met with Andy last week. He was missing a section from the wireframes, but we'll add it in. Also removed some extraneous text. He will firm up the design, and then we can start implementation. All right. The origin network community, again, not as important as the sound, so we can kind of let's just drop this down the list until you actually need to look at it. Coffee Crusher, make sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right, strategy document. This is, I would say, more important than the website, so I'll put it up here. So basically, I have this is the way that I kind of set stuff up for startups that I work with who are more in a further along phase than the previous playbook I had, which is essentially just like you want to have like a series of one pagers is what I call them. Sometimes they end up being 2 pages, but a series of one pagers which synthesizes or summarizes a bunch of different documents. And so we have like this one very small document that you can kind of look at, and then there are links to further information as you go. And I like this because it could set us up for a decentralized document a little bit. And so, for instance, if we have like a community funnel strategy or something like that, then I might say, hey, NFThinker, create like a one pager which describes our community funnel, like the current status of it and what our plans are, what our next steps on it. And then he can do that. I can summarize it and put it in this kind of top level document, so that way we can kind of add and remove teams, add and remove sections as we need. And hopefully it's a more scalable doc. This is the way I set it up for startups that I work with when I'm advising their executive. But yeah, I hadn't done it for BCard yet because we were kind of like a product in the validation stage. So we kind of had one more business plan looking doc, and now we're kind of transitioning to this style of doc. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, and it
Yeah,
looks
I like the looks of that.
and I like the tables and all that. Easy to read.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, there's not much on here yet, but I've been working mainly on the business model side in the business model document, which is here. So I was working more on the business model document, updating our assumptions and stuff like that. But edit. There we go. Yeah. So this is the doc I was working mainly on yesterday, and so this is probably the previous one will be buried. Like we won't actually see this. We'll just link out to that other doc. Yeah. So, anyways, that is the way that I'm looking at the strategy document, and then I'm going to be updating our Asana milestones, and I'm going to be updating our meeting minutes, and I'm going to hopefully by next week actually share the strategy with the team. I don't think things are very much different, but I do think that we really need to focus on adding communities and how that affects our transacting users. Really, if we don't figure this part of the product out yet, there's not much sense in building other parts of the product until we really figure out this kind of until we, let's say, crack this nut. And when we create a new feature, we always want to make sure that the features are kind of supporting that core use case. So it's really a matter of focus more than anything else, and that's why we have the strategy document that we can dust off. So hopefully by next week, knock on wood, I will be able to present it to the rest of the team. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Announcement channel on our Discord. I think this is done, right?
Yeah, I think that's done. I just need to put it in a different category. There are constant upgrades to the that will to take place. But
And so, and the B class, you who's going to post there when we add community?
Yeah. I certainly when we had a new community, I had or channels in general as being of updates through the organization and got that for country. And those announcements may come from so it is being launched. I'm happy to take that on. If there's a new token being launched and it pertains to a community, I can take that on. If it's a communications thing, communications team can take that on and make that announcement.
Okay, fair enough. I guess like I'm still not 100% sure of the difference between BCard announcements and BCard community announcements. Is it the audience? One is for everyone, and one is specifically for communities who are using BCard?
Yeah, and the main difference will be, as you suggested before, we don't want to be bombarding our existing communities with announcements that don't pertain to them. Like, hey, we're launching this new partner community. Hey, we're launching a marketing campaign with nouns. If you're a nouns card holder, you can participate and earn nogs. Those should be internal announcements that don't go out to, say, Origin DAO and other partner communities. If there's a technical update that affects everybody, if there's a product update that affects everybody, those need to go out to all the channels. And so this is why any individual community would want to have this announcement channel directly in their server so they can stay updated with the product specifically, but they won't be hit with new community announcements, specific marketing campaign announcements, etc.
Okay. Can I give 2 pieces of feedback?
Yes, sir.
One, I think the text that you have under BCard community announcements, it says, we will use this to introduce new partners and notify you of major changes to community programs. I actually think that you should just say, if you're a community using BCard, you should subscribe to these announcements because we will let you know of any product updates and major service announcements, that kind of thing. I don't think we should be introducing new partners there.
Or the BCard community announcements.
Yeah, actually, I guess it depends on what you mean by partner. It's not communities. It could be other partners. You mean like something like, oh, we're creating additional points. Okay. Anyways, I think that message needs to be a little bit more directed at the communities. So that they know that they should look at that. And the second thing is, I would suggest changing BCard announcements to BCard general announcements or BCard product announcements or something like that.
Yeah, so just sort of differentiate a little, make a clear differentiation between the two channels, and then the one that should be subscribed to by community channels. I'll specifically say that. Exactly,
and I think that ultimately, I like the way that you set it up because we could eventually have like a BCard product announcements, BCard in real life announcements. We could have multiple kind of announcements that people could subscribe to as needed. So I like that you set that up as 2 different announcement channels. That makes sense.
Okay, perfect.
All right, cool. So I'll leave this up. Move the announcements panel to their own category. I'll leave that up so you can do that last bit.
Can I request? So once those are done, I don't know which would be. I guess both channels be, or at least one of them, to be appropriate for me and Reynes to get access to. Like, meaning I can't post to it.
Yes.
I can follow it, but I can't post to it.
Yeah, I'll maybe create an announcements role, and then we can give that out to people who specifically need it.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think it's a good way to do it. And create announcements role and give to people who need it. All right, great. All right, on the next brand side, so now that that's back, I think like the next step is for us to realign ourselves. Brett is back. Next step, meet and realign on next steps. All right. So I feel like I'm here forever. I kind of want to just take it off plate. It's not important enough to work on, so we can just eliminate it from your focus.
Yep.
Okay. No content. We already talked about this briefly. Okay. And so that's kind of what seems like we're working on now. I see things on the list for most people. I think that, Tom, you've been mainly working on the product weekly, but you something on the all team list. On while you is there some piece of work?
I think the biggest thing is just the production release enabled the we tokens. It's pretty close to ready to go, but there is the deployment to be and a little bit of monitoring for database production server when we go. I didn't view anything else in particular that needed before we get it pushed.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing working on product perspective. First, actually, let's put it next week. I do think that there are a bunch of little things. The app really.
Yeah. So the app and the for does
so there are
that addition of so just because there's such a critical capture of that but I don't expect it to change.
Okay, cool. And there's focus to versus contract. Okay, I'm going to run my monthly report today so that we can kind of compare against your monthly report and make sure that we kind of are getting the same output.
Yeah, sounds good.
And then you and I can kind of meet and just ship the amount of rewards we need to those reward contracts.
Sounds good. I did start a little bit of a list in Notion as well, just in the private section for now, listing out all of our contracts and their current token balances, just so that we can keep track on a month-to-month basis as we do get into a regular method of funding them and tracking their claims and such.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. In general, I think everyone should get into a habit of documenting work as you're doing it, because I think that it is a sustainable way of working, in that it is like a resilient way of working. If we document stuff as we're doing it, it helps us remember what we're doing, and it also helps other people kind of be able to follow behind you. Let's say if a new developer came in and was just like, how the heck does this work? Well, Tom has just written down how it works, and so he's not going to forget anything the next month he does it. And if we have another developer comes in who wants to help, they'll also be able to see this. All right, make sense?
Good.
All right, so rewards disbursement is kind of the top on our list. We have been doing a lot of refinement, I would say, on the reward side. And as well, I think the next step is to do user tests. And Bluebear, actually, I would love if you and I could do some of these user tests in general, so that in the future you could potentially do them on your own, which would free me up some time, if that's something you're interested in.
Absolutely, happy to.
Okay, and Drost, you are one of my top users whenever I think of doing user tests. Could we set up something for next week with you?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, awesome. So don't claim your rewards just yet. You won't be able to anyways because we haven't put them into the contract. But when they do pop up, don't claim them just yet. We're gonna try to go through it on live with you.
That fits right in with my procrastination timeline.
Okay, great. Just gonna write that down. Book one-on-one user meet with Drost and Blue Bear. And I'll get a couple. We have a couple other usual suspects that I reach out to as well. But Coffee Crusher, you could be on that list too, because I believe you probably have some rewards coming to you this month as well.
Okay. Yeah, I can help. Whatever you need me to do.
Basically, it'll be like a half-hour session where me and Blue Bear watch you use the app, or you take us through your thoughts as you're using the rewards claim.
Okay, that sounds like fun.
All right, cool. And so I'll just put that in here as well. User test rewards flow. And so
Yeah.
this is going to be here. Sorry, go ahead.
And I have to hook up a new bank account also because of Juno. And so if there's any testing that needs to happen there, I have to go through a process anyway. So let me know if you'd like me to document any of that or test it.
I mean, so we would love to know if you successfully. I mean, first of all, I'd love to help if there's any way that you need help, and we would love to know if you were able to successfully connect an account like a bank, which bank you did, because I kind of want to keep a list of banks that we successfully connected with, because users often ask, and so we actually, Blue Bear, this is something I could write down as well. Which is create article, support article of successful connections to BCard. So this is something that I've noticed you and Tom have been doing, and I think it's great. At Tom and at Blue Bear have been testing loading of BCard with different providers, i.e. banks, PayPal. I think the latest one you did, you put into was it the user chat? I don't know what you did, but you, or was it the team chat? And I was just like, oh, that is really interesting. It's probably
there's a new product out there called Beam. Well, I don't know if it's new. It looks like they just pushed it into production in June. But basically, you can load your card directly from tokens. So I pushed some OP ETH into it. You sign up and it gives you a wallet address, and you push either there's about 10 different chains you can push ETH to, or USDC, and you push it to that address, and 2 hours later it appears as funds on your BCard.
That's amazing.
Pretty
2
hot.
hours later. That is super hot, actually.
That sounds like Unblock. That's I wonder if they're using a similar tech.
Yeah, and it's totally built on Privy because the sign up is, the look and feel is very similar to BCard. So I think the synergy is there if we want to reach out to them and maybe see if we can network with them or do something along the lines, because it's definitely built on the same platform.
Yeah, I know they've got business. So this is just a new company that I came across when I was doing a general weekend research, and it piqued my interest because it hit my radar as being kind of that missing gap piece that we need to let users fund their cards with crypto. But it was US only, so I couldn't get registered to give it a try out myself. So I was really thankful for Blue Bear to jump on and do those finalized tests, and great to see that we got some favorable results. So now PayPal, Stripe, and this new service is maybe Beam a great sidecar option for loading via bank account. That's great news.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And we can even write so if we start listing this on the support site, we can also create an article that shows users how to do it in Beam, and then we can communicate the crap out of it. Hey, you can now load your BCard using crypto, using this kind of workaround, but still interesting, right?
Yeah, so the other thing about Beam too is I didn't go too far down the business offering, but they do have a business sort of offering available. I thought it cool if we were to allow individuals to DIY it and use the service as is. It kind of keeps us out of the loop. But if we did want to look at sort of, as you mentioned, more deeper or maybe more friendly integration, that might be something they would be willing to hook up for us and allow us to have a maybe one step or easier steps to get BCard users onboarded for Beam.
Yeah, I
Well,
can definitely.
interestingly enough, we did have that one user that sent us the feedback and bailed a couple 3 weeks ago because he was a real degen and did not want to fund via ACH via traditional bank, and so this would allow him to have a B card and fund directly from crypto.
Interesting. Yeah, I would definitely be happy to pursue Beam and see if we can set up some sort of business partnership there.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's really good. Really good way to do it. I do think that like the fees that that Beam is charging right now, just on the user side, it's 1%. Okay, so it's not let's just say it's not a home run yet, but it's similar to what I think Unlimit is charging, if I'm not mistaken, and a thinker. And if we can do it without any monthly minimums, that's kind of an unlock for us. Actually, that's not even necessary with unlock. Anyways, there is a couple things, but I created this little this task for you, Bluebear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start building those support articles, and if people want to pursue that on their own and just have links so that they can find alternate ways to fund their card. I think that definitely is a plus.
Yeah, I think you can start with just a support article, which is really simple and just says, we've tested the following banks, and this one works, this one works, this one worked, and it worked at like this time, like on April 28th. We succeed, like Drost connected to this one. We don't have to say Drost, but like we know that Drost connected to, let's say, Bank of America, and he says, yeah, I successfully connected to Bank of America. We can just write down Bank of America, July 3rd, right? And then July 3rd, 2024. And so users can kind of see like, oh, okay, well, my bank's on this list, so BCard will work for me.
Right. And I know that, like, for example, the Chase wants to push you to Plaid, but there's a way within Plaid to scroll all the way to the bottom and say connect another way. And so that's good information for them, because then they can put the routing number and the account number in and connect via the micro deposits.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so that's really good. And then so like basically for each of those, you could have like a little article, which like not even an article, like a paragraph, which kind of describes like for those particular ones like Plaid, you just have to like keep scrolling down, that kind of thing. That's really useful too.
Perfect.
Potentially have articles which show where hidden options are, i.e. scroll down on Plaid, and you can add routing account number to do ACH transfer.
So Blue Bear, I didn't realize
Yeah.
there was a workaround with the Plaid, because that was one of the accounts when I onboarded. I couldn't use one of my checking accounts because it uses Plaid.
Yeah, if it forces you into Plaid, it'll bring up banks and you can search for your bank, and then it'll want you to connect via logging on and with your account and password. But then if you scroll all the way down, it should say connect another way or connect. I forget what the actual language says, but I think it says connect manually, maybe. And then rather than actually choose your bank, you actually have to put in a routing number. And once you put a routing number in, then it's smart enough to know that routing number is for this bank, and then lets you put the account number in.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that would be like cool for like cool tips of the week or something, that we could promote on socials. Because I know there's a lot of, Plaid, like a lot of banks in the U.S. use Plaid, and that's why I couldn't connect one of my checking accounts. So
Yeah,
I'll have to.
I
did that with Capital One, so I'll see if I can maybe disconnect and reconnect, and I'll grab some screenshots so that we can, actually truly build a support article with some visuals.
And the great thing about that, Blue Bear as well, is that we can then do like little social media posts like, did you know that you can use Plaid to connect to your B card? And so it's like, we're not really talking to anyone necessarily, but there are probably some people who are like, oh, I use Plaid, or I like Plaid, or something like that. All of a sudden they're like, oh, well, what's B card? And all of a sudden we are, I think like one of the things with our content production is just that we're not posting as often as we should. And it's why I suggested Coffee Crusher as well, that we can just use some Gen AI sometimes. But even these little support articles, we can post those too, right? Like that's one thing about working in public is that we can literally post anything, and it's valid as long as it's something that we're working on, right? And so I think that it's an opportunity that has multiple benefits. It helps our existing users. It like potentially draws in future users, and it just sets our support site as like a really the place to go for when you need help.
Hey, along those lines, Links, I was just wondering, I'm really bad at posting on social media when I am posting, and then posting frequently enough. And so a thought here is in terms of maybe trying to plan ahead a little bit, and maybe I was just thinking like even like a table in Notion or something, just as a idea workshop for scheduled posts. And so just like what we're talking about right now, the phrasing of something you might want to post, and it's a category of the type of messaging we're getting out. And so any team member can go in there and look at a list of some types of social media posts that we've used. And over time, maybe we could be effective. Anyway, look at that and use that kind of thing as like a variation of something a person could post easily, and then also get into the habit of a regular cadence, and then being able to schedule things. And that, I think, will help us stay on track with that, because I just don't do it if I don't have it. I need something to tickle me, and also some way of helping automate it in some fashion without it seeming robotic, where you're just pulling from some content, so you're going to have to create every time you sit down to try and do a post.
Yeah, I mean, so in general, communication is one of the things that we are focusing on over the next couple months, right? Like that's really part of that key. So it would be really helpful, and I think you already have access to. Yeah, I see you here. You have access to our things. You can create your own, like in the communication workstream, you can create a page here which starts to do that, and then just share it on the communication side. Or even if you want to put it in private, you could put it in the private section if you wanted as well. Just pick a spot and put it, and then show it to people, because I do think that it's something that the more communicating we do, the more communicating we do, the more often we're in front of people's heads. And it's true, there's some kinds of communication that get annoying, but I think that if we have different people communicating in different ways, it's not going to be the same, right? Like Coffee Crusher is working on these campaigns, Rainus is working on videos. Roast, if you have these other ideas, we can work on even getting products to help us schedule some of these things. It's useful work if you do it.
Great. Yeah, I just think, it's one of those things that's easy to not do, and then whenever you're sitting down and trying to put out something that has a little bit of creativity to it and is also useful, it's kind of excruciating. And so you can, simplifying that and easing it, I think, is worthy. And so yeah, I'll take a look at doing that. And then just a note on what Coffee and Blue Bear were talking about with some of the funding paths and Plaid versus other methods. Another method that they kind of refer to it differently depending on the bank you're talking to, but like send to a recipient, to any recipient. Usually that's the location where it will let you enter a routing number and an account number. And so regardless of what other methods are supported, there's usually that way, and they refer to it differently at different banks. And so I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah, I think that the referring to it differently at different banks is really the difficult part, right? I think on Juno they had it as like external account, and then it was like hidden somewhere else, and it's different on Bank of America too. So you're absolutely right, and that's really valuable information for us. But anyone using ACH, I think, to write it down, we're in a unique position where we can actually. ACH is the cheapest method to send money in the United States right now. It's quote unquote free, right? It's just hard to use because it's free, because the bank doesn't make money on it. So we're in a unique position where we could actually make it easier to use this method for a lot of people in the United States. All right, we are over. please do take a look at the what did we ship last week. It includes the links that I posted here, Coffee Crusher. But I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone for coming. I realized that it was a little bit of a chug because we moved servers. But it's good for us to be resilient. It's good for us to have our processes tested, because in the end, what we're trying to do is build something resilient. And so I really appreciate all of you being here and putting in that effort. I want to draw our attention to the fact, we'll talk about this a little bit more on the strategy side, but we're finally at a point where we can truly help communities, right? Like, that is our goal. That is what we were aiming to do. And we actually have a product out that will help communities, right? But just because you build it, it does not mean they will come. And so figuring out how we show communities that this is actually a useful thing to them and actually make it useful to them, that is something that we need to figure out as a team, not just amongst ourselves, but also with the communities that we're working with. So thank you to one and all. We'll talk about this a little bit more next week. Yeah, GM.
Have a great
Yeah.
day, everyone. GM.
Bye.
Everyone.
See you later.
Bye.
Cheers all, and if you're in the US, happy 4th.